Good morning. Hi, Christina. Oh, the skies are so blue today. It's wonderful. It's been better every day. So, thank you. So, I want to introduce myself. I'm Sunshine Moschler, and I'm an artist, and I particularly love abstract painting. I've delved deep into the elements of art in order to teach the elements of art when I was teaching in the schools, and now I teach just privately. Yeah, so I wanted to share this with you. So we've been studying about value, and I wanted to kind of show you how value and color really can relate to each other, and how difficult it can be to see value when color is really brilliant, when it's a strong hue. And if you hear sounds that sound really unusual, those are my dogs. They kind of love being in the studio. They jump around and say, yes. I go, you want to go in the studio? Yes. They jump around, and then they come down here and they're bored. So let's see, can you see these very well? So I was looking at these last night, and I thought these were really interesting. You know, when I look at the colored swatches, and these are exactly the same one. This is a color photocopy. This is a black and white photocopy. And when I look at these, some of the colors look like they would be the same. Like these two, to me, the value looks very similar. But here, they're so different. And then if you look at these two, to me this one looks a lot darker, but look at how close they are in value. And then these two are almost the same value. This one's a little bit darker. These two are almost the same value. And I think training your eye with something like this that's color and black and white, you can kind of get to know your own perceptions and how you see color personally. So I thought these were interesting. These look different to me. This looks brighter, so therefore it looks lighter to me. And yet when you look at it in the photocopy, it's almost the exact same. These are very similar. This looks dark to me. It's a little lighter. This one is a little darker on this row. If I had to guess, I would say these are the same, but I would be wrong. And these, look at how different those are. Those are 3 different values. This is the lightest, medium, and the darkest. So I think looking at those is, it just shows how differently we perceive color and how value can be tricky to see. So I wanted to go over just real simple today, and you might already know this, you probably do, but tints and shades. So a tint is adding white and a shade is adding black. And so I wanted to get started on the color wheel with just the primaries. So I take red. I add a little bit of white. I'm tinting it. I'm going to mix it right on here. And you can see how the different values of one color look so good together. I really like using this in my paintings. gonna wipe this off real good. And then adding a little black. This is a shade. You can see how far a little tiny bit of black goes. This can actually be quite a lovely color if you have enough red in it. It's kind of a burgundy. These shades are almost the same because I started off with so much black in this one. So I'm just going to add more red. Kind of lift off some of that black. Now doing this exercise, you can kind of get the idea of different things you can use these colors for. So this is quinacridone red, Hansa yellow, ultramarine blue. I always forget which black it is. I think it's ivory black or Mars black. And then titanium white. Titanium white is a nice opaque white. A little bit goes a long way, and it definitely covers up the layers behind it. So now we're going to just do yellow. And then a tint of yellow. Just adding a little bit of white. And then another tint, adding a little bit more white. Now, this is really interesting with this particular yellow, and you can actually get this effect with a lot of yellow and black mixtures. It makes green because there's a lot of blue in the black. So if you haven't experienced this yet, it's really fun. So I'm just going to add a little bit of black. Little goes a long way. And it's this really lovely, I would say, avocado green. It's very earthy. You can see how nicely these go together. Now for the blue, so this is ultramarine blue. And then we'll create a tint. And another tint. You can see how rich that pigment is. A little bit goes a long way. And then we'll make the shades of blue. I have to offload a little bit because it's so easy to overwhelm a color with this black. It's very opaque. I'm going to add blue. And then adding more black. Okay, so those are the primary colors and tints and tones, or tints, yeah, tints and shades. Tones would be when you add either a little bit of the opposite color or if you add some gray. So I wanted to show you something that I've actually learned recently that I thought was really fabulous. I like to utilize this in my work. And it is a way of making black out of color without using all three primaries. So I have here, again, I have ultramarine blue, and this is burnt umber. So I'm just going to, can you see that? Put a little bit of burnt umber. You can see how it's kind of blackening it. I can still see quite a bit of the green, so I'm taking a little bit more burnt umber. Now the way to test this and see if you have a good black is to add white and see how nice and gray your gray is. Okay, that's a lovely gray, but I would say that's pretty green. So I'm adding more burnt umber. Looks a little bit brown. Let's mix these two. Okay, there we go. There's a nice clean gray. So just burnt umber and phthalo green. Another combination you can use is burnt umber and ultramarine blue. So burnt umber. And ultramarine blue. I want to make sure I squish all the paint out of my brush. Okay, I got lucky on the first try. So that's ultramarine blue and burnt umber. And I'm going to test it by adding a little bit of white. Look at how gray that is. Adding a little more white. You can make a lovely value scale with burnt umber and ultramarine blue. I could probably use that black forever. It's just really lovely. This one is more challenging. I want to try that again. I know it works. So, start with the phthalo green. And layer burnt umber. Now it looks pretty green to me. Adding a little bit more burnt umber. A little bit more. I still see a lot of green. I just want to get that balance right between the warm and the cool. So bringing these warm colors and cool colors together kind of help to neutralize one another. Let's try that. Still pretty green. I'm adding more burnt umber. A little bit at a time. Okay. It looks grayish brown to me. So this one is a more difficult combination to balance out. This one I would say is a lot easier to get a nice gray out of. These are different grays. I would say these are more like a misty, distant forest. So if you have something that's green that's going to be far away, you're going to have that atmospheric haze in it. I think that would be great for that. Okay, so these are warm colors, red, and this will be orange, of course, and yellow. Let's mix our secondary colors. So, of course, red and yellow. Make a lovely orange. I'm going to add a little yellow because that looks a little bit red-orange to me. Okay. I'll do a tint. Another tint. And then shade. And another shade. Now this is simply adding black to the orange, and look at how green that looks. So it's something to keep in mind once you've practiced this for a while with your colors. You can really get used to that, and then you know instinctively when you want that orange or that green how to get there. Okay, let's see. So green is our next one, which I'm a little bit tricked here because this is quite green. Okay, so, whoops, I used phthalo green. That's a little bit too neon. I meant to use ultramarine blue and Hansa yellow. So I'm just going to make a middle of the road green, just kind of a Kelly green, I guess. And then add white for a tint. Add more white for a lighter tint. Ooh, beautiful. And then wipe out my brush and make a shade of green. And then a darker shade. So I'm not using any mediums, I'm just using pure acrylic paint. And let's see, so I'm going to mix the red and the blue to make the purple. Quinacridone red and ultramarine blue I have found to be a really nice purple. And it's so easy to make a brown purple because a lot of reds tend to have orange in them. It can be frustrating when you're trying to find a good basic primary colors that you can mix. Okay, so just red and blue and a little white. And a little more white. These tints are looking particularly lovely today. Really liking these greens today too. They're pretty fun. Okay, now we're going to make the shades of violet or purple. Whoops, I added white instead. Go back to the purple again. We'll add a little black. Ooh, that overwhelmed it fast. The reason I'm using gray palette paper is to show really a better representation of the color without the background palette competing with the color or contrasting with the colors. Just adding a little more black and making a darker shade. Okay, so you can kind of see how this relates to the color wheel and a lot of different possibilities that you can play with. And we'll talk about complementary colors next week and kind of how colors play together, how they get along, how they clash, how they make each other look fabulous, and yeah, so, and how you can play with that in composition, in landscape or abstract painting for different effects that you'd like. So I want to just encourage you to experiment and play with tints and shades and see what happens. Find different tints and shades that you love. Try them next to each other. And so we'll do the tertiary colors, which are the colors in between the primary and secondary colors. So the red orange, the yellow orange, yellow green, blue violet. And when you're naming those, if you look at your crayons, you'll notice that the primary color is always mentioned first. So instead of calling it orange red, it's red orange, or yellow would be the primary, so yellow green, or blue violet. So anyway, just an interesting trivia fact. So okay, well, I'm gonna work on my abstract. We went a little bit long today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If I have any answers, I will be happy to share them. Oh, hi, Christina. Oh yeah, that's an interesting thing to share. I was thinking about that. So when I was a child, I didn't have a lot of opportunities to do art, except maybe at school. always loved it, of course. You know, most people do. And then in high school, I took an art class in ninth grade. And I would wake up in the morning and just be so excited to go to school. And I was never excited to go to school before. Hi, Carolyn. Thanks for being here, ladies. So I was just sharing, Carolyn, about my training in art, I guess. So that was, I was 15 in the ninth grade. Or, yeah, I think I was 15. That's right. And realized, oh my gosh, I'm waking up in the morning ready to go to school because I have drawing class first, drawing and painting first thing in the morning. And that was kind of a clue to me. And then later on that year, we moved up to Grass Valley, and I became friends with a girl who lived on the same property as we did. We lived in a forest, and we became really close friends. But one of the first things I think she ever said to me was, "Oh, you're an artist." And I was like, it just hit me on my heart so much. I realized I am like, that was like, it was like, I'm meant to be this, you know, I'm meant to do this. And so after that, I still didn't have a lot of supplies. I took different classes in high school. And then when I went to, well, I started really painting when I was 25. My sons and husband bought me a set of acrylic paints, and I just started painting all the time whenever I could. And then I started set up a studio in my kitchen, and then I set up then I got a studio outside the kitchen outside the home when I was about 27. And then I moved, I renovated a room in our garage for a studio. Meanwhile, going to school, working, raising children. And then we moved to Napa, and at some point I decided to finish college, and so I was studying child and family studies, and early childhood education, and that was my main focus. That was what my degree was in. I have an associate's degree, and during that time, I took a few workshops at the painting workshops at the college, where I would learn. Our teacher would kind of help us with different things, and then as a teacher, I had this really strong desire to teach art, and so some friends helped me make that happen, and I started an art program. And I was with that for about 3 years before the 2009 craziness hit of financial decline in our country. And my hours were going to be reduced, and I was caretaking my grandmother, who was pretty independent, but it was just a time where I felt like I needed to step back and work more at home. And so all that time, I've kind of been studying the things that I needed to know. So I was following the California state guidelines for teaching art, so what the children were expected to know at different grade levels. I was just tailoring my lessons towards what they needed to learn. So I was kind of like reverse engineering the art education. And so during that time, I learned a lot, and just, you know, working with kids, junior high and elementary school kids, it just really opened up my eyes to the freedom and possibilities. However, I've always been kind of like particular and wanting, you know, I don't know. I do a lot of very precision work, like my little gardens and stuff, but the abstract is just fun. I feel like it's just a way to really express and have freedom and explore and try different combinations. So anyway, that's the long story of my art education. And I just love sharing it because I know how important it was to me. I know there are a lot of teachers who are teaching, really great, in really great ways. They're teaching great things. And I just feel like, I know that I'm running my own race. I'm not competing with anybody else, and that's the way it is with art, is we have our own unique voice. And so finding what we really enjoy, and it can change over time, but it's kind of like we change over time. So yeah, that was really fun to reminisce. Thank you for asking that question. All right, so this painting I started yesterday. Not sure where it's going. I'm just responding to what's here. I still want to have a lot of freedom. And what I'm basically focusing on at this point in the work is just getting some value contrasts, a lot of texture, movement, and just kind of freely exploring different combinations of texture. And so it will be a mess for a while. And I have to not look at it with a critic's eye. I have to look at it with acceptance, and I think that's a really good metaphor for just being a human being. How we can really be our own worst enemy. I mean, that's even a saying. We can be our own worst enemy. And so I think that acceptance and embracing what we're really enjoying and taking the time for ourselves to explore that is just a really good, healthy thing that I need. Because like I was sharing in my little story of, when I was raising children and, going to school and working, and I really came last. And there were times when I wasn't able to have a studio practice. There was about 6 years where I set down the paintbrushes, and that was really painful, actually, but I didn't realize how hard it was to do that. That's really cool, Christina. I know. It's like when you see that evidence, it's good to follow that. What you're really interested in. So that's awesome that you followed that. It's never too late. It's never too late, and it's good to have kind of a community of support, so that you can just kind of learn from each other and grow together. So yeah, thanks for being here. always kind of moving things around a little bit in my studio, trying to make it more customized to make it comfortable. I'm just adjusting little things. To make it more convenient. I kind of organized my shelves. A couple of days ago. Even though I don't do a lot of deep cleaning in the studio, I do organize and try to customize the spaces where I work. Constantly cleaning off my table. But it's nice to have a workspace where you can leave everything out and come back and pick up where you left off. Now I'm taking some clues from the composition, and I'm trying not to limit it too much, but I am starting to kind of respond to what's here. If that makes any sense. I really like the transparency of having some water in the paint and then letting things show through. And then there might be some cool things that I really like that I might try to keep around, and they might disappear later. I really like to see how the different colors respond to one another. So the purple and green kind of have a little bit of drama going on because purple has red in it, and red and green are complementary. You probably know that. I feel like I'm still learning how to paint with my heart. To really trust myself. To not try to rush to resolve things. Because there's part of me that wants to know, what is this going to look like? What is the outcome going to be? And will it be what I think is a successful outcome? I really don't know. It's a mystery. If it's not what I would consider a successful outcome, then it's okay because I can add on to it in the future. I can paint over it. I can modify it. But I think for now, the point is to really enjoy the moments of being here. Just being here in the moment. This isn't frog tape, this is Scotch brand. Kind of tore my paper a little bit, so I'm not too sure if that's good. That's the first time that happened. So yeah, this is frog tape, and this is the Scotch brand. Looks like it's a little bit strong. Oh, that's really great, Christina. I like that idea to use saran wrap to make different marks. I like that. That's really cool. Another thing is like using like palette paper and painting something on it and then pressing it on and then pulling it off, and it does make really different textures. That element of surprise is really fun to respond to. Oh, thank you, Leslie. You're so welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm saving my paint water in different colors. So I have a green, I have a blue, red, yellow, and I'm going to be dyeing fabrics with it. So that will be, I actually did a little bit. Now this isn't super rich pigment. This is just like an old pillowcase. And I used the paint water and experimented a little bit. I don't like putting the paint water down the drain. So I evaporate it out in the sunlight. Let's see what we can do with this burnt umber and ultramarine blue. Definitely needs some darker values in this painting. It's funny because every painting you kind of learn and discover little things, and no two paintings can ever be exactly the same, and you really don't want to kind of copy your own work. I mean, you want to have a cohesive body of work, but you want to keep kind of pushing into new territory in a way, and so just always experimenting, not ever settling down on, oh, those are my brush strokes, or that's my palette, or but just continuously, I think, at least that's my idea of a good way to continue to grow, is just keep trying new things. I'm really liking what this burnt umber is bringing into this. It's so much more of a, I don't know, kind of a grounded color, kind of more earth. I feel like it was kind of water and sky. It was just a lot of real floaty colors. Floaty colors. Does that make sense? It's just got a little bit more groundedness to it now. And that's not a color I normally use. Do you use burnt umber? I know some artists use it as a background. Underpainting. I had $1 for every time I kicked my lamp over. Sometimes an awful, awful color can really make another color look super beautiful. It's that contrast. When I was picking out my swatches of color for today's lesson, I was noticing all these tints that are kind of gray and just really looked beautiful. All the subtleties that you can get with just different shades of gray. Hope you ladies are painting with me. I want to see what you're working on. It's funny thinking back to that first high school class. I was very good at scratch art on Scratchboard. I was very good at drawing with pencils. I was not good at all with color. For some reason, it boggled my mind. I just did not understand. I felt like the teacher was talking to more advanced students because I just did not, I was not able to achieve the results that I expected to achieve. Some people were really good with color, some probably weren't quite as good with color. But it's interesting because color is, I don't know, I feel like it's my, it's the thing that just really drives me to want to continue to paint. Perceiving color and light, and working with it. So seeing it and painting with it. I'm not going to worry too much about these lines as far as like not smudging them. If I was doing one of the top layers in the painting, I would go right over these Caran d'Ache crayons with a medium, an acrylic medium. So that they wouldn't smudge. But since it's fairly early in the painting, I'm not worried about smudges. I feel like this year has been such an exploration and learning to accept myself, accept who I am and my uniqueness, and to try to appreciate that and try to be encouraging to myself. Because like I said earlier, we all can be our own worst enemy. And I'm not sure why it seems that creative people, people who have to be creative, tend to be sensitive, and it's not, this world is not a world that readily accepts sensitivity, especially guys being sensitive. It's more acceptable with girls to be sensitive. But anyway, it's interesting how we grow as we mature. So Christina, you asked about the Caran d'Ache. Yes, I just use the water soluble. I have these aqua color. These are really old. I've had these for years, and they're pretty similar to the Caran d'Ache, so these are water soluble as well. I agree with you. We empathetic people can absorb a lot, and it's been a tough time in our world, I have pain on my face. It's been, a lot of people are going through a lot right now, so it's good to be able to get feelings out. Express ourselves. I'm really struggling with everything is kind of opening up here in California, and our numbers are so horrible. And it surprises me when I go into a social situation and no one's wearing a mask. I just don't know what to take of that. I don't know what to make of that. Oh gosh. I wish I could help everybody, It's so tough. That's a tough, 28 is a really hard age. I know, we have sons working out, essential workers out there, and it's scary. To me, the overall, I think there's a really big message in all of it, and to me, I don't know, there are a lot of messages, but I feel like, I just wish that human beings would treat each other with the dignity and respect that we deserve. You know, that we would all treat each other with just recognizing that, you know, we are precious, every one of us. And our world, I just feel like it's got to such a place of disregard for each other, and it just has to change. It has to. I agree. We do all need to feel connected. It's been a rough week. It's been a rough week. And I think it is changing everyone. What's going on, it has to be changing us to perceive a much bigger picture. As long as I say I don't know what I'm doing, then I know I'm on the right track. Don't know what I'm doing. Trying to read your comment, Christine. I love that. Yeah. Really honoring your your own practice as an important part of your life. It's really cool. Right. I've been trying to focus on the positives of this whole experience. I guess it's just been a tough week. I would love to hear about the courses that you took. So I remember we took the Louise Fletcher course at the same time, and boy, that just really opened up my world. And then I found out about Nicholas Wilton, and that just, that really made me super encouraged about the path that I'm on. And I haven't taken his class, or his, I know he has a free course once a year. I hope he has that this year. He hasn't talked about it at all. I'm not surprised. I've heard a lot about art school from, well, some from Nicholas himself, but from friends who have gone through art school and actually ended up very disappointed because they didn't really get the skills that they were looking for and the particular ways of growing that they wanted to. They were kind of pushed in a different direction, and it's a lot of thinking way too hard. And I think that his course, Nicholas Wilton's course, sounds amazing. cannot believe it's 10 o'clock. That went by so fast. I'm trying to think, Christina, if I have ever framed my paintings in glass. Yes, I framed one for my mother-in-law. It was a vineyard painting. I'll show you kind of along the lines that I did a series of watercolor vineyard paintings. So I framed one for my mother-in-law, and I framed one for my husband. And other than that, I have been working on canvas. Oh, I used to frame them a little bit in just over the years. Yes, I have actually, now that I think about it, some of my older watercolors when I did in my 20s. But these are my token watercolor paintings that I did. Napa Valley scenes. 2 hours. So I kept track of how long they took me. I was just curious. I'm always curious how long things take. Yeah. Oh, that one I have on my my personal Facebook page, not my business Facebook. Oh, thank you. Now this is really similar to the one that I made for my mother-in-law. But it had more garden patches in the foreground and more pronounced sunflowers. But it was kind of the same view with these 7 palm trees. Similar view, just a little bit different approach. This one took 3 hours. I wish I knew what year it was. It was quite a while ago, probably 11 years ago. Oh, here we go. 2012. This one took 2 hours. So 2012, that would be 8 years ago. Interesting. The acrylics that I'm working with now on paper, I actually I want to encourage the buyers to mount them on panel, or I can mount them on panel. I think I showed you this one. I think the larger pieces are going to be a lot more challenging, but this one is it's mounted on panel. I took an X-Acto knife to the edges. I still haven't painted the edges. 2 of the edges the paper was going over the edge a little bit, but it has a lot of gloss medium on it, and oh, that's my dog, Maui. He's okay, he's healthy. So a lot of gloss medium, and that really seals the paper in. And the acrylic itself is a plastic, so I think that's definitely adequate. However, I think it is a good idea. My husband was telling me it's probably a good idea to seal the wood panels before mounting the artwork on the wood panel, because it's possible that the wood might have something coming out of it, some sort of, resin or some oils coming out of the wood. So I think that one I didn't seal, but it didn't feel like, it felt like a really complete product. Like maybe it is already sealed, I don't know, but I need to find out before I do any more. So what I'll be doing is wrapping the color around the edges. So that's really fun because you get to go back and mix the colors and really match them precisely, and then wrap those colors around the edges of the panel. Normally it's a canvas. But yeah, so I'm finding it really a lot more freeing to be working on paper because I don't have that pressure of feeling like, you know, I have too much storage, I have too many paintings in storage, so I'm not worried about having, you know, too many paintings, so, because they're easy to store. Yes, I like the gloss medium for sealing, definitely. Yeah. So Nova Color is really good, as you know. Oh, sealing the board. I think I would seal the board with gesso, because that will definitely keep. I think that would keep it safe from if there are any oils or anything that could come out of the wood. I think gesso is really an ideal primer. It would probably be easier to buy them gessoed already, because I know with gesso you can get ridges and then have to sand it down. That's why I don't like stretching my own canvases anymore. It's just so much work to gesso things. But yeah, I guess we'll let each other know what works good. And yeah, so, well, I'm gonna go take the doggies out. It was nice hanging out with you. Thanks for spending the time. And blessings on you and your family. And have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you later. Okay, bye.